powerful people. I'm Jasmine Williams Washington from Community Science, and I'm so glad that you're here with me today. This is part two of our three-part webinar series on strengthening strategy and impact during uncertain times. Whether you're a funder, intermediary, or nonprofit leader, this conversation is designed for you. My colleague Amber Trout kicked us off with a session on sustaining momentum through disruption. Today, we're building on that by exploring how we realign strategy, stay rooted in our missions, and understand where we sit in the larger ecosystem. I'll walk us through 6 practical steps grounded in our work at Community Science, tools we use to help organizations and networks build capacity that's sustainable, strategic, and system aware. Here's what you'll walk away with today. Alignment is the foundation of impact. When your purpose, strategies, and relationships are in sync, capacity building work becomes transformative. Your sweet spot, where passion, skill, and community need intersect, is where lasting value and energy live. Ecosystem thinking helps prevent burnout and fragmentation. When we work in right relationship with others, we build collective power, not just organizational strength. So, a little bit about community science. We have to go through this today, like we will every time. Community science works with philanthropy, government, nonprofit, and grassroots organizations to strategize, research, and evaluate initiatives that build healthy, just, and equitable communities. We bring systems thinking, equity, and accountability into everything that we do. As you see, I am one voice of many. And again, I'm Jasmine Williams Washington. I specialize in organizational development, power building, and system change work. Before this work, I spent years as a community organizer. So that lets you know I've seen firsthand how critical alignment, trust, and ecosystem awareness are when trying to move real change. I work with partners and organizations alike to align strategy with purpose and power. And as my clients and partners have always heard me say, I don't want to be right. I just want to get it right, whatever it is. So that's the lens that I'll bring into today's conversation. Today's discussion is brought to you by the Organizational Effectiveness Practice Area at Community Science, where we partner with mission driven organizations to strengthen their capacity, responsiveness, power, and impact. So, enough about community science and what we do, all that good stuff. Why are we here? Many nonprofits are navigating heightened demands, limited resources, and complex challenges. Funders and intermediaries are also asking, how can we support our partners in ways that go beyond short-term technical assistance and lead to lasting, meaningful change? Today is an invitation to reimagine capacity building as a strategic, systemic, and values-aligned approach, not just a set of trainings or tools. It's about helping organizations work from a place of clarity, alignment, and purpose. This is not a checklist. We are not here to quote fix organizations. We're here to help them connect the dots between mission, strategy, operations, and ecosystems so that they move with greater confidence and collective strength. So let's start with the framework we often use to make sense of strategy across the 3 horizons, as I'm sure that many of you are familiar with. Horizon one, which we heard from Amber before in the first webinar, is the what. It's the urgent day-to-day work, keeping programs running, staying compliant, and managing current operations. Horizon two is the how, and that's where we'll focus most our efforts today. This is the missing middle. It's where organizations iterate, innovate, and begin to align their work across functions. It's where the shift from reacting to strategizing begins. And then horizon three is the why, your long-term vision for systems change. What kind of community or world are you ultimately working toward? Capacity building, when done well, connects all three. So I'm sure many of you know exactly what capacity building is. Um, but capacity building isn't just about internal improvements, it's about alignment. This approach supports more sustainable operations and more meaningful community impact. Mapping what matters is about stepping back to see the whole picture, not just the programs you're running or funding, but the full story of your strategy, capacity, and connection to the whole ecosystem. When we support organizations in this mapping process, here's what we're really enabling. For funders, more intentional grant making, rooted in what is working or what actually works, not just what fits the form. For intermediaries, stronger, more aligned cohorts, networks, and collaborations, not just a collective of partners, but a coordinated force. For nonprofits, clarity on their purpose, confidence in direction, and partners they can strategize with, not just survive alongside. For example, a youth organization might be funded to offer job readiness, but they recognize that transportation is a barrier for participation. So they partner with a service provider to remove that obstacle. They're doing the work they were funded to do, but with more impact because they've aligned strategy with real world needs. Our job is to help surface and support those critical connections, bridging the gap between intention and implementation. It's the foundation for every step that I'm going to share with you today. So, step one, as an organizer, as a capacity builder, I always start by doing my homework. So, what do I mean by that? That means go in, find what's visible, look at your websites, your bios, public statements. What an organization highlights externally often shows us um, where they feel most confident. It also gives us early signals like what programs are they most proud of or how they describe their mission. But as an organizer and as a capacity builder, I treat this only as a starting point, not a conclusion. It opens the door to more meaningful conversation about who they really are and what matters the most. Step two, you want to dig deeper. What's beneath the surface? Where do you look for those things? So, well, I personally look at local community papers, those publications. So, I'm here in Atlanta, so not necessarily the Atlanta Journal Constitution, but more like Decatur ish, social media, LinkedIn updates, local events. These places often tell a richer story. For example, an organization we supported was funded to do hospitality training. But when doing my homework, looking deeper, local press showed that they were piloting youth coding. Why? Because they saw that tech was a path to livable wages. That was not in a grant report, but by doing your homework, the information was there. These are breadcrumbs to help understand where an organization true value lies and where their passion is. Speaking of passion, um, next, that step three is naming that sweet spot. Where's your sweet spot? When organizations operate from their sweet spot, they build power and clarity. So when we're supporting a partner, I often ask them, what's the work you feel most passionate about? What do you feel compelled to do, even if there was no funding attached? Why? Uh, Another example, for instance, an organization I worked with was funded to do food distribution, but they constantly offered health screenings at those events. I'm sure you're like, well, that makes sense. Food distribution, health screenings. Well, it was more about context there. It's because they knew that many community members wouldn't otherwise have access to that kind of care. So that was their sweet spot. That was their passion in action. They were responding to the data um, and from the community, and what their community showed them they needed week after week. Our job is to name that intersection of values, strengths, and lived community need, and bring it into the strategy so that your strategy, that passion, all of those things align. So then we move into step 4, invite in evaluative thinking. So now we pause and we reflect when working with organizations. Um, is your strategy leading to the outcome you care most about? I am a mirror as a capacity builder. My job is to just reflect back to you what you're sharing with me and asking questions coming from a place of curiosity. So if a goal of yours is economic mobility and you're training people for jobs that don't offer livable wages, what has to shift? Earlier, I shared the story about the group funded to do hospitality training. But when we looked deeper through local press and talking to community members, we saw them piloting that youth coding. Why? Because they recognized that tech offered a more sustainable wage path. Okay. They really wanted to lean into that. Evaluative thinking helps us to test these assumptions, adjust strategies, and partner differently. As a capacity builder, we help our partners to walk backwards from their desired future states, clarify those misalignments, and find the courage to adapt. It's really important. So, next, okay, here it goes, y'all. I love football. Again, I told you I'm in Atlanta, girl from the South. So we're going to zoom out a little bit. And I promise you, if you're not a football person, just bear with me, you'll understand. So we're going to zoom out for a minute. Who else is trying to solve a related problem? What are their roles, the gaps, the dependencies? So now let's bring this all together using a football analogy. On the field, you have your organization. You might be the playmaker on the field. So this position is the quarterback position. This is the strategy leader or a backbone organization, calling the plays and keeping the vision clear. But depending on your role in the ecosystem, you may be playing a different position. And that's just as critical. Next, you have your coaching staff. Your coaching staff is guidance that shapes your direction, your mission, your mission statement, your board, trusted advisors, funders, or even those community leaders. They're calling the plays and they're providing strategic guidance. At the end of the field, that's your long-term goal. Systems change. For example, your system change may be better childhood outcomes. It may be family sustaining wages. Um, that may be what you're running toward. Then we have these yard lines on the field. So every 10 yards represents a short term or a medium term outcome or a target. What will you do in the next 6 months, the next year, the next 3 years to let you know that you're headed down that field towards system change? But then if you're the quarterback, you're on the field, you're in this ecosystem, you have your team. That's the ecosystem. So those are maybe funded by a same funder. These also may be service providers, partners you already know, and ones you haven't even met. They're on the field with you, even if you're not coordinated with them yet. So in football terms, running backs, you are direct service providers. You're moving the work on the ground every day. You're filling those gaps. Wide receivers capture and advance new ideas. Think of innovation advocates or pilot programs that may support your work. Then you have your offensive linemen. capacity builders, infrastructure providers. They're protecting and supporting the work. You may also be one of these players on the field, and understanding your role helps align better with others on the field. Then we have your opponents. They're not just political or external actors, they're internal barriers as well. So this looks like staff burnout, limited resources, gaps in services, of which we've not identified a partner to fill yet, anything that slows your progress. And then we have your fans, the community. They're in the stands watching and waiting to see your strategy and execution turn into real lasting change. This metaphor helps organizations see where they are, who else is playing on that field, what needs to happen to move forward together. And when everyone knows their position and plays it well, the whole ecosystem moves the ball forward together. Because in reality, no one organization can get to the end zone toward systems change. We're all interventions in it. Okay, so in this same area, when mapping the ecosystem, this is where we also have to ask those hard, honest questions. Do you have the capacity to do what you're trying to do? When I say capacity, I mean staff, time, relationships. Capacity comes in all forms. Are you holding too much that could honestly be shared with another organization, whether that be an intermediary, a service provider, or maybe there's someone out there you don't necessarily know of yet, but may want to check your relationships to see. And then what's truly yours to lead? And where can you pass the ball, for lack of better words? When organizations get clear on their lane, they reduce burnout. I can't tell you how many times I work with organizations that was doing something that they really weren't passionate about doing, um, and it got in the way. It got in the way. So it's not either or; it's both and. Right? So when you're able to do that, you're able to reduce burnout, focus your energy on where you're the strongest. Again, knowing when to pass the ball. It is not your responsibility to hold everything, but being clear about what you hold. This is how we move from protecting turf to building a coordinated team. Because again, the truth is, no single organization can achieve systems change alone. That's why understanding your ecosystem, investing in the capacity of the ecosystem is so critical. It's not just about knowing who's out there, it's about building shared capacity across players. So, as a nonprofit, it's knowing who's in your ecosystem. As a funder, it's knowing who else is in this fund, in this place, funding this work, and what are they funding. So when we map the ecosystem, we identify gaps, we align efforts, and strengthen the field overall. That's not just organizational capacity, it is collective power. Again, I'm an organizer. I can't help myself but to talk about power. And that is what ultimately moves the needle. Next, we're going to talk about applying a systems lens. So we help organizations zoom out and ask themselves questions. So we're bringing them along into a systems lens, although a systems lens or systems thinking, although we as the capacity builders, some on this call are keeping that systems thinking alive throughout the whole entire time. So we help organizations to zoom out and ask, what policies, funding flows, power dynamics shape this issue, whatever that it is? Who is trusted in this space? Who can convene without creating conflict? Not every organization, when we think about coordinated efforts or collaborations or partnerships, should lead this coalition or collaboration, but every organization does play a role. So if you choose to make this an official collaborative partnership or coalition before convening any meeting, before any group convening, excuse me, we talk to each partner individually, clarify distinctions, and prepare for trust building. What we know that trust is built over time, and we all know it can be lost in a second. Again, systems change takes time, but it starts with clarity, relationships, and shared purpose. So I want to ask you, I know that it wasn't a lot of time today, but let's pause here. Think about the organizations, grantee partners, or other partners you work with um, on your own or within your own organization. Which step feels most urgent to you right now? Is it naming the sweet spot, mapping that ecosystem, or realigning the strategy? Feel free to drop your answer in the chat. And if you feel comfortable, tell us why. Is it a clarity issue or a collaboration roadblock? Or you know what, Jasmine, I just hadn't thought about my ecosystem. I'm carrying all the work myself. This reflection helps us build together and it tells us where the work is most alive for you. So I know that this was a a quick webinar today, and I'm hoping that you got something out of it. But today, we mapped the work. We explored how you can center your organization's unique strength while staying in the right relationship with your ecosystem. Our final session in this series is coming up on July 8th when Michelle Hainsbreast will walk us through that third horizon, how to measure what matters across all three horizons, your day-to-day work, midterm system strategy, and long-term impact. After the series wraps, Amber, Michelle, and I will follow up with a FAQ document addressing key questions that you all are sharing with us. That means from your registration list as well as anything that you dropped in the chat. And if today sparks something you like to explore further and cannot wait for those FAQs, and it's something specific to your organization and your context, there will be a Calendly link in the follow up email and in the chat where you can schedule time to connect directly with me. Until then, stay anchored in your sweet spot, name your role, trust your lane, and let's keep building towards systems change together. Have a good day.